Dan.
I was reading on the internet that if, I'm not sure if it's true or not, I was reading about plans to make Re-Animator number 4.
Yeah.
This is
Could we have you all in this room to dispel this?
Right. House
Spread
of
the word.
Re-Animator is the most asked about movie that has not been made and will not be made.
Sure. Right behind Avatar, really.
It really is amazing to me. We need to get a hold of IMDB and
Take it down.
Take it down as it being
Go to the street.
pre-production, because the concept for that movie is not topical anymore. It was so like on the nose about the time when Bush and Cheney were in the off, and Stewart had it in his mind to have Herbert really stick it to them. And I was always a little wary of that because
Horror payback.
yes, it was kind of like Stuart Gordon meets Michael Moore meets Re-Animator. and I didn't really want to think that Re-Animator ought to be mixing in topical politics.
No.
Although, my argument was, well, okay, we can still do House of Re-Animator and it'd be the White House, but it doesn't have to be these people. It can be about power, corrupting. Absolutely, sure. But why do we have to go after them specifically? Because that has no shelf life after a while. It's moot. It doesn't hold up. But Stewart being Stewart, and frankly, the people that would finance it saw it that way too. It was like, why would we finance something and then it alienate half of our audience? That's not what Re-Animator does anyway.
So what, you felt the script just went way south from the other ones?
No, listen, it was
It's a really good concept. It just
concept. It was just like, it's got to be Cheney and it's got to be Condoleezza Rice and it's got to be Bush, and it was kind of like, well, really
politicizing something that doesn't need to be. Miskatonic University isn't Stanford. It doesn't matter who it is. Right? They too can be brought back to life.
You can show a corrupt presidency without it being, on the nose impersonations.
Yeah, I don't know why he got that into his bonnet. It didn't leave, so it's not happening.
And now it's like, I suppose it could if you gave up on the impersonation aspect of it. I suppose it could still work, but they better hurry.
We're not students anymore.
No, we kind of figure, the days are coming probably when, you guys will hear about that they're going to do a remake of this movie.
Yes, Clive Barker.
Good luck.
You've got a bunch of pins in your head.
It's kind of a two-part question. Did both of you see American Beauty?
Yeah.
Okay, how was it when, his Best Picture winner mentions Re-Animator?
I know.
Appropriate.
Were you told that happened, or
No,
were
I
you
had
just kind of
no
watching and all of a
idea.
sudden it was like, holy shit?
Just this movie is, just gets under people's skin, and it just stays there. There's something so resonant about it.
That's when I knew that Re-Animator was in the social zeitgeist to an iconic level. That all of a sudden, anybody who watches that movie has a common frame of reference. They know what they're talking about. And it wasn't by accident, because if you think about American Beauty, it is about an older man leching after young beauty, okay? Just like Hill leches after Beck. And so there is that common echo of obsession there. And so they talk about Re-Animator twice, and they do a visual homage at the end when she's lying there vulnerable, and Kevin Spacey's head floats into the upper frame, just like Hill's head floats into the upper frame underneath.
Stop there.
Bingo.
Was anybody old? Would anybody see that movie in like 19? Did you see Re-Animator in 1985? Were you in the theater? Like,
How many of you weren't even born in 1985?
It was an insanely, the most vocal audience experience you can imagine. I remember I would go to see that movie in a huge theater in Hollywood Friday night, people standing up in front of you and just screaming, "No, you don't! You can't do that!" My first experience from reading the film is I threw the script across the room and said, "That shit is rude. I mean, it's wrong. I don't know if I can do this or not." And that's always been its response, and I think because it was so out there at that time and so off base and so unpredictable that it got into people's consciousness.
And that's the one big decision why we're still here 25 years ago in a weird way. They decided not to play the ratings game with Re-Animator because they knew that if you take the movie to the ratings board, you have to play by their rules and you have to cut it to shreds until they're satisfied that it's an R rating. Well, they have
a 15-minute short.
Yeah,
right?
There wouldn't be anything left. So they kind of went, we're not going to do that. We will not go to the ratings board, and we will put the movie out. And think about this. The movie was put out unrated in movie theaters.
Yeah.
You can't do that today.
No.
They got two movies now.
I am so wrong, because you can do it.
Hatchet 2 that only lasted a week.
But they only lasted a week.
Oh, and then, what was that, the remake to... I don't know what, it was a remake to really good.
Well, what did they
Don't touch it.
They called, when they showed it at Con, what was the response? That's the first phone call that we heard that any kind of response whatsoever, because we really had no real idea of what, we saw dailies and went like, God, some of that's really funny. I mean, like really funny. Go figure.
Well, it played at Con at like the midnight.
Yeah, like the midnight horror show. They have a night where they show a horror.
And it just exploded, and a very famous film critic from the New Yorker, I believe, Pauline Kael, put it on her top 10 movies of the year, and it was like, whoa. But I have to say, we did not get the benefit that we should have at the time. That movie was such a cult following, but did you ever, like, did the doors open for you, Bruce, from like casting directors or anybody at all? No one ever said, "Oh,
I don't think anybody
we
saw
were a bastard child. We were thought of as the naughty boys," and especially a lot of casting directors are women, and they were completely offended at the idea of this movie.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of backfired on
it. It's kind of a non-movie. Well, it's one of those.
Oh, it's one of those. You know. Well, you know what? Of all the movies in 1985, how many of them are?
Yeah, very few of them have the legs.
Have the legs that this movie has. So it's on them. But
yeah. How do you two feel about all the horror movie remakes like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and so on?
God, I don't know. I saw all the originals, you know, so I never saw the need to remake it. But I haven't seen the. I saw The Hills Have Eyes remake. God, I feel lucky to survive. It's like just an onslaught. So, and I kind of appreciated it, but I feel like I'm okay. It was just gnarly.
I just kind of feel like. I don't know, I just kind of feel like these days that, Hollywood is playing it really safe. And the safe bet is don't do anything way too out there. It's all about, I hate this word, branding. It's all about what the audience is aware of, not about whether or not it's a good movie. I don't want to sound like an old guy, but I never went to a movie thinking, because it didn't matter how old the people were in the movie or it just mattered that it was whether it was a good movie or not. Now they are so concerned with appealing to, you know, a fraction of an age group that's most likely to spend money on tickets and the name recognition. So there's a lot of regurgitation of the same movies over
Even
again
bad
because
television
people, you know, television series, Hawaii Five-O's back on the air.
The Dukes of Hazzard.
They tried Knight Rider.
Knight Rider.
Yeah, had to try that.
It's like, try something new.
Yeah, right.